ExamPrep.School. Wyoming Crop Insurance Producer Exam. Code 12-WY-32 or OP-WY-32. There are 5 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Crop Insurance Fundamentals, General Insurance Terms and Concepts, Multiple Peril Crop Insurance, Wyoming Laws, Rules, and Regulations, Pertinent to Crop Insurance. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Under multiple peril crop insurance policies, the principle of indemnity ensures indemnity payments do not exceed A. The full replacement cost of lost crop production. B. The difference between a projected revenue and actual revenue. C. The guarantee level times approved yield without regard to salvage. D. The actual loss in value of production minus salvage value. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is D. The principle of indemnity limits payments to the actual loss in value of the insured crop, less any salvage, preventing overpayment beyond the loss incurred. Reason A is not correct. Replacement cost coverage is not used in federal crop insurance, which bases indemnities on actual loss value. Reason B is not correct. Indemnity calculations refer to crop value loss rather than fluctuations between projected and actual revenues. Reason C is not correct. Guarantee level times approved yield is used to calculate protected yield, but indemnity is adjusted for salvage to reflect actual loss. Question 2. Within federal crop insurance policy definitions, which statement correctly distinguishes risk from peril? A. Risk is the specific cause of loss, whereas peril is the probability of a damaging event. B. Risk is the chance of loss occurring, whereas peril is the specific cause of loss insured against. C. Risk represents exposure to financial loss, whereas peril refers to a reduction in crop yield. D. Risk is an uninsurable hazard, whereas peril represents the premium paid for coverage. The correct answer is B. Risk denotes the probability of loss, while peril identifies the actual event or cause against which the policy provides coverage. Reason A is not correct. The definitions are reversed. Risk refers to probability, not the specific cause, and peril denotes cause. Reason C is not correct. Financial loss exposure and yield reduction are not the formal definitions of risk and peril in crop insurance policies. Reason D is not correct. Premia are unrelated to the definition of peril, and risk is insurable under eligible policy provisions. Question 3. A producer enters into a sharecropping lease before the insurance application period, reserving 30% of the crop for personal profit and granting 70% to a tenant. The producer then applies to insure all production under an MPCI policy. Under USDA crop insurance regulations, what describes the producer's insurable interest requirements? A. Insurable interest must exist at policy inception only, and the producer may insure the entire crop. B. Insurable interest must exist at the time of loss only, and the producer may insure only the share retained under the lease. C. Insurable interest must exist at both policy inception and at loss, and the producer may insure only the share retained under the lease. D. Insurable interest exists only for the share retained under the lease without regard to timing. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that insurable interest must exist at both the time the policy attaches and at the time of loss, and coverage is limited to the producer's retained share. Regulations do not permit insuring the tenant's portion or ignoring either timing requirement. Reason A is not correct. Insurable interest is required at both policy attachment and loss, and coverage cannot include the tenant's share. Reason B is not correct. Insurable interest must be in place at both inception and loss, not solely at the time of loss. Reason D is not correct. This option overlooks the requirement that insurable interest must be present at both policy attachment and loss. Question 4. In insurance contract law, which of the following is not regarded as an essential element required to establish a valid insurance contract? A. Competent parties. B. Insurable interest. C. Offer and acceptance. D. Subrogation rights. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is subrogation rights because they arise after contract formation rather than being required to establish the contract initially. Reason A is not correct. Competent parties is required because both the insurer and insured must have legal capacity to contract. Reason B is not correct. Insurable interest is essential as it demonstrates the insured stands to suffer a financial loss. Reason C is not correct. Offer and acceptance is necessary to demonstrate mutual agreement on terms. Question 5. Which of the following actions most clearly signifies the insurer's acceptance of an applicant's proposal, thereby completing the acceptance element in insurance policy formation? A. Applicant submits a signed application. B. Agent collects the initial premium. C. Insurer issues and delivers the binder or policy. D. Insured receives a policy summary document. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is issuance and delivery of the binder or policy, as it represents the insurer's formal assent to the applicant's proposal. Reason A is not correct. Submitting a signed application constitutes an offer, not the insurer's acceptance. Reason B is not correct. Collecting a premium indicates consideration but does not alone signify acceptance by the insurer. Reason D is not correct. Receiving a policy summary is informational and does not complete the acceptance element. Question 6. After Farmer Jones signs the MPCI policy application on March 1st and submits his acreage report on March 15th, he pays the required insurance premium on March 20th. Which of the following actions by Farmer Jones constitutes his consideration under the insurance contract? A. Signing and submitting the policy application. B. Remitting the insurance premium by the due date. C. Providing timely acreage reporting information. D. Satisfying the policy's insurability requirements. The correct answer is B. This option is correct because the insured's consideration in an insurance contract is the payment of the premium, which represents the value exchanged for the insurer's promise to indemnify. Reason A is not correct. Completing and submitting the application constitutes the insured's offer, not the consideration. Reason C is not correct. Providing acreage reports is a policy obligation after the contract is in force, not the consideration. Reason D is not correct. Meeting insurability requirements establishes eligibility but does not constitute the insured's consideration. Question 7. Under common law tort principles, which cause of action is most appropriate for unauthorized entry onto farmland, resulting in trampling and destruction of growing crops? A. Trespass to land. B. Private nuisance. C. Trespass to chattels. D. Conversion. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is trespass to land because unauthorized physical invasion of real property constitutes trespass, and crops in the ground are part of the land. Reason B is not correct. Private nuisance involves interference with use or enjoyment of land, not direct physical invasion causing damage. Reason C is not correct. Trespass to chattels applies to personal property, but growing crops in the ground are real property. Reason D is not correct. Conversion concerns wrongful exercise of control over personal property, not damage to land itself. Question 8. Which of the following lists the correct sequence of elements required to establish negligence in farm operations? A. Duty, breach of duty, causation, damages. B. Duty, causation, breach of duty, damages. C. Duty, breach of duty, damages, causation. D. Duty, foreseeability, breach of duty, damages. The correct answer is A. The correct answer lists duty, breach, causation, and damages, which are the traditional elements of negligence applied in agricultural settings. Reason B is not correct. Causation must be established after breach, so reversal of causation and breach is incorrect. Reason C is not correct. Damages must follow causation, not precede it, making this sequence incorrect. Reason D is not correct. Foreseeability is part of proximate cause, not a standalone element replacing causation. Question 9. A crop insurance policy provides a 70% coverage level on an APH of 100 bushels per acre at a price election of $10 per bushel. After a hailstorm, the actual yield is determined to be 50 bushels per acre, and an inspection finds the producer was 25% negligent in failing to follow recommended harvesting procedures, contributing to the loss. Under Wyoming's comparative negligence standard, what is the indemnity payment per acre? A. $150. B. $200. C. $100. D. $175. The correct answer is A. First, calculate the yield guarantee. 100 bushels multiplied by 70% equals 70 bushels. Then the loss is 70 bushels. 50 bushels equals 20 bushels. Multiply by the price election. 20 bushels multiplied by $10 equals $200 initial indemnity. Under Wyoming's comparative negligence standard, reduce that amount by the producer's 25% negligence. $200 multiplied by 1 minus equals $150. Reason B is not correct. This reflects the indemnity before applying the 25% negligence reduction rather than after it. Reason C is not correct. This amount would correspond to a 50% reduction in the initial indemnity, not the 25% required by comparative negligence. Reason D is not correct. This suggests only a 12.5% reduction, which is half the required 25% reduction under comparative negligence. Question 10. Under the NCIS basic provisions, the cancellation and termination of insurance are addressed in which section number? A. Section 5. B. Section 4. C. Section 2. D. Section 7. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is Section 5 because Section 5 of the NCIS basic provisions specifically outlines the cancellation and termination provisions. Reason B is not correct. Section 4 covers contract changes rather than cancellation and termination. Reason C is not correct. Section 2 defines the insured and insurance period, not cancellation and termination. Reason D is not correct. Section 7 deals with weights and measures, not policy cancellation. Question 11. Within the NCIS provision hierarchy, which document type is applied immediately after any endorsements? A. Special provisions. B. Actuarial documents. C. Basic provisions. D. Crop provisions. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is special provisions, because in the NCIS hierarchy, any applicable endorsements are followed by the special provisions. Reason B is not correct. Actuarial documents are applied before endorsements, not immediately after. Reason C is not correct. Basic provisions are applied after special provisions, not directly after endorsements. Reason D is not correct. Crop provisions are at a lower level following basic provisions in the hierarchy. Question 12. In the crop hail endorsement coding system, the middle digit of the three-digit code indicates which policy attribute? A. Crop type category. B. Coverage level. C. Deductible amount. D. Rating zone. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that the middle digit denotes the coverage level within the crop hail endorsement code. Reason A is not correct. The first digit, not the middle digit, represents the crop type category. Reason C is not correct. The third digit corresponds to deductible amount, not the middle digit. Reason D is not correct. Rating zones are not indicated by the middle digit in this coding system. Question 13. A corn producer is reviewing enrollment options for the Catastrophic Risk Protection (CAT) endorsement on a newly seeded crop. Which of the following is a component of the CAT endorsement? A. Option for replant payment up to 10% of the production guarantee. B. Guaranteed yield equal to 65% of the approved yield. C. $300 per crop administrative fee due at sales closing. D. Full premium coverage for prevented planting losses beyond 50% loss. The correct answer is C. The CAT endorsement requires only a $300 administrative fee per crop at the sales closing date. The other listed features are part of buy-up or additional endorsements. Reason A is not correct. Replant payments are not provided under the CAT endorsement and must be purchased under a buy-up plan. Reason B is not correct. Guaranteed yield of 65% exceeds the fixed 50% coverage level of the CAT endorsement. Reason D is not correct. Prevented planting coverage under CAT is not provided as full premium coverage beyond loss thresholds. Question 14. A wheat grower plans to purchase buy-up coverage and inquires about eligibility rules. Under NCIS policy structures, which of the following must be satisfied before selecting buy-up coverage on the same crop in the same county? A. File a written agreement to obtain coverage above the 80% level. B. Maintain an APH record averaged over at least 2 consecutive years. C. Enroll in an enterprise unit structure for that crop. D. Purchase the CAT endorsement on the crop first. The correct answer is D. Buy-up coverage requires that a producer first purchase the CAT endorsement on that crop in the same county. The other items are not prerequisites for buy-up eligibility. Reason A is not correct. Written agreements are only required for certain crops at high coverage levels, not for basic buy-up eligibility. Reason B is not correct. An APH record of 2 years is not a condition for buy-up. Historical yields are averaged over at least 4 years. Reason C is not correct. Unit structure choice does not determine buy-up eligibility. It affects premium rates and loss calculations. Question 15. Under RMAAPH yield calculation procedures, when a producer has fewer than 4 years of actual yield records, what minimum percentage of the transitional yield is used as a yield plug for each missing year? A. 45%. B. 60%. C. 75%. D. 90%. The correct answer is B. The RMA specifies a 60% transitional yield plug for each missing year to maintain conservative APH estimates. Reason A is not correct. A 45% plug is below the RMA minimum and would understate yield estimates. Reason C is not correct. A 75% plug exceeds the RMA's required minimum percentage for missing yields. Reason D is not correct. A 90% plug is much higher than the transitional yield plug percentage allowed by RMA rules. Question 16. Which statistical method does the RMA use to calculate the trend-adjusted APH factor for individual crop yields? A. Exponential smoothing. B. Geometric mean. C. Simple linear regression. D. Weighted moving average. The correct answer is C. The RMMA applies simple linear regression of yield versus year to derive the trend coefficient for APH adjustments. Reason A is not correct. Exponential smoothing weights recent years more heavily, but RMA uses regression for trend. Reason B is not correct. A geometric mean calculates central tendency, not a trend coefficient over time. Reason D is not correct. Weighted moving averages smooth data, but do not provide a trend coefficient as required. Question 17. A producer notes that for a particular crop, the premium rate is $3.50 per $100 of liability at 60% coverage, $5 at 70% coverage, and $7 at 80% coverage. Based on these figures, which best describes how the premium rate changes with increasing coverage level? A. Premium rate increases at a constant rate per percentage point of coverage. B. Premium rate increases at an increasing rate as coverage level rises. C. Premium rate increases at a decreasing rate as coverage level rises. D. Premium rate decreases as coverage level rises. The correct answer is B. The premium increases by $1.50 from 60% to 70% and by $2 from 70% to 80%, indicating marginal increases grow as coverage rises. Reason A is not correct. Implies a constant incremental change, but the second increase, $2, exceeds the first, $1.50. Reason C is not correct. Suggests diminishing growth, but data show the increment grows from 1.50 to 2.00. Reason D is not correct. Contradicts the data, which show premium rates increasing rather than decreasing. Question 18. An RM. A analyst determines total expected indemnity payments of $360,000 for a crop district with an insured liability of $1,200,000. What base premium rate per $1 of liability will be used? A. 0.20. B. 0.25. C. 0.30. D. 0.35. The correct answer is C. The base premium rate is calculated by dividing expected indemnities, $360,000, by total liability, $1,200,000, yielding 0.30 per $1 of liability. Reason A is not correct. Results from an incorrect division that underestimates the ratio of indemnities to liability. Reason B is not correct. Reflects a miscalculation using an inflated denominator, leading to an underestimated rate. Reason D is not correct. Overestimates the ratio of indemnities to liability, producing a rate higher than the correct value. Question 19. Under a standard multiple peril crop insurance policy, within how many hours must a producer provide written notice of loss to the insurer after discovering damage? A. 72 hours. B. 24 hours. C. 120 hours. D. 240 hours. The correct answer is A. This option is correct because MPCI policy provisions require a producer to submit notice of loss within 72 hours of first discovering damage. Reason B is not correct. Notifying within 24 hours underreports the allowable 72-hour time frame and is overly restrictive. Reason C is not correct. Allowing 120 hours exceeds the policy's 72-hour limit for loss notification. Reason D is not correct. Allowing 240 hours greatly exceeds the required 72-hour period and is therefore incorrect. Question 20. Which of the following is not an RMA requirement for designating a representative sample area under MPCI loss adjustment procedures? A. Matching the insured crop variety. B. Using the same planting pattern. C. Being contiguous within the insured unit. D. Being centrally located within the insured unit. The correct answer is D. This option is correct because RMA guidelines do not mandate that a representative sample area be located at the center of a unit. It only needs to be within and contiguous to the unit with uniform characteristics. Reason A is not correct. Matching the crop variety is required to ensure sample representativeness of the unit. Reason B is not correct. Using the same planting pattern is necessary so the area accurately reflects unit conditions. Reason C is not correct. Contiguity within the insured unit is required so the sample is properly part of the unit. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below, we read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.